May 9, 2025, Moscow, Victory Day. A day meant to commemorate triumph over fascism, a day of remembrance and celebration for the sacrifices made during World War II. Instead, it showcased something far more unsettling, a stark contrast to the joyous parades of the past. Rows of soldiers marched in eerie lockstep, their faces grim beneath the shadow of the Kremlin, a somber reminder of the current geopolitical climate. Tanks rumbled across Red Square, their treads a stark reminder of the ongoing war in Ukraine, a conflict that has reshaped the world's political landscape. Over this chilling spectacle loomed the figure of Vladimir Putin, the architect of Russia's current path. He watched with a chilling impassiveness, his eyes betraying no hint of the devastation his actions had wrought, a silent testament to his resolve. But it was the man standing beside him who sent shivers down the spines of world leaders, a figure equally powerful and enigmatic. Xi Jinping, the president of China, stood shoulder to shoulder with Putin, a symbol of a growing alliance. Their presence was a blatant display of solidarity, a message to the world that their partnership was strong and unwavering, a sign that Russia was not alone in its defiance of the West, a partnership that could shift the balance of global power. It was a message received loud and clear across the globe, a warning of the potential consequences of this alliance. The world watched, holding its breath, as two of the most powerful men on Earth solidified their dangerous alliance, a moment that could define the future of international relations. In a gesture as calculated as it was cynical, Putin declared a 3-day ceasefire in Ukraine to coincide with Victory Day. This announcement was made with much fanfare, aiming to project an image of benevolence and control. He claimed it was a gesture of goodwill, a chance for families to celebrate in peace. The streets, however, told a different story, with festive decorations juxtaposed against the backdrop of destruction. But the world saw through the charade. International leaders and media outlets were quick to criticize the move, recognizing it as a strategic ploy rather than a genuine effort for peace. Ukraine immediately dismissed the ceasefire as a ploy. Officials and military personnel remained on high alert, knowing that the threat was far from over. A thinly veiled attempt to lend an air of normalcy to the grotesque spectacle in Moscow. The grand parades and celebrations in Red Square stood in stark contrast to the grim reality on the ground in Ukraine. They called for a month-long ceasefire instead, a genuine effort to end the bloodshed. Ukrainian leaders and citizens alike hoped for a more substantial and lasting peace. Their pleas, however, fell on deaf ears. The fighting continued unabated, with no signs of slowing down. The conflict raged on, leaving devastation in its wake. Explosions ripped through Ukrainian cities, turning homes into rubble and families into refugees. The human cost of the conflict was staggering, with countless lives disrupted and destroyed. The death toll mounted with each passing hour, a grim testament to the emptiness of Putin's words. Each new grave was a stark reminder of the ongoing tragedy. The ceasefire, it seemed, was nothing more than a cynical PR stunt. Putin's forces continued their brutal assault, showing no real intention of halting the violence. A way for Putin to appear magnanimous on the world stage while his forces continued their brutal assault on Ukraine. The contrast between his words and actions was glaring. It was a hollow gesture, devoid of meaning or sincerity. The world watched, hoping for a true resolution but finding only empty promises and continued suffering. The human cost of Putin's war is staggering. Millions have been displaced, forced to flee their homes and seek refuge in neighboring countries. Cities lie in ruins, scarred by the relentless bombardment of Russian artillery. But it is the individual stories of loss and suffering that truly capture the tragedy of this conflict. The parents who lost children to indiscriminate shelling, the families torn apart by the chaos of war, the elderly left to fend for themselves in bombed-out apartment blocks. These are the faces of Putin's war, the innocent victims caught in the crossfire of his ambition. Their stories are a stark reminder of the human cost of this conflict, a cost that continues to rise with each passing day. In the midst of this geopolitical earthquake, a faint glimmer of hope emerged from an unexpected source: the White House. Former President Trump, known for his volatile relationship with Putin, has seemingly orchestrated a thaw in U.S. Russia relations. Evidence of this fragile détente could be seen in the most unlikely of places: Red Square. CBS News, a major American media outlet, was granted access to cover the Victory Day parade, a privilege unimaginable just months ago. This gesture, while symbolic, hints at a potential shift in the diplomatic landscape. However, beneath the surface of this diplomatic dance, the underlying tension remains. The conflict in Ukraine, like a festering wound, continues to poison relations between the two superpowers. The world watches with bated breath, wondering if this thaw is the prelude to a lasting peace or merely a temporary reprieve before the storm. While the United States and Russia engage in their delicate dance, another, perhaps more concerning partnership has emerged. The bond between Russia and China has solidified into what can only be described as an axis of iron. This alliance extends far beyond mere symbolic gestures. Xi and Putin, during their meeting in Moscow, signed over 20 bilateral cooperation agreements. These agreements encompass a wide range of sectors, from military cooperation to economic partnerships. The implications of this partnership are far-reaching and deeply troubling. With China's economic might and Russia's military power, this alliance poses a significant challenge to the existing world order. It is a clear signal that the world is entering a new era, one characterized by multipolarity and heightened geopolitical competition. As the war in Ukraine grinds on, the world watches with bated breath, hoping for a resolution to the relentless conflict. Rumors of a potential agreement between the United States and Ukraine have begun to surface, sparking intense debate and speculation among international observers. This deal, if it comes to fruition, could have significant ramifications for the future of the conflict and the wider geopolitical landscape, potentially altering alliances and power dynamics. Details remain murky, but reports suggest that the agreement would involve Ukraine making territorial concessions to Russia in exchange for a ceasefire and security guarantees from the West. Such a move could reshape the region's borders and influence. Such a deal, however, is fraught with challenges and complexities that cannot be ignored. Firstly, it risks alienating key U.S. allies in Europe, who have been steadfast in their support for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. These allies fear that appeasing Putin will only embolden him further, potentially leading to more aggressive actions in the future. Secondly, it raises serious questions about the long-term viability of such an agreement. Can a deal brokered under duress truly stand the test of time? Can Putin, a man who has repeatedly shown his willingness to violate international law, be trusted to honor his commitments? His track record suggests otherwise. The potential U.S.-Ukraine agreement represents a high-stakes gamble, one that could have far-reaching consequences. A gamble that could either pave the way for a lasting peace, or further inflame an already volatile situation, making the stakes higher than ever. Only time will tell what the ultimate outcome will be, as the world watches and waits for the next chapter in this unfolding drama. Vladimir Putin, the architect of this geopolitical crisis, seems convinced that he is winning. He points to the territorial gains made by his forces in Ukraine and the West's willingness to negotiate as evidence of his success. This belief, however, may be his undoing. Blinded by hubris, Putin risks overplaying his hand. He seems to underestimate the West's resolve and the deep-seated opposition to his actions within Ukraine itself. The world watches with a mixture of apprehension and fascination as Putin plays his dangerous game. He has set in motion a chain of events with potentially catastrophic consequences, not only for Ukraine and Russia, but for the entire world. One thing is certain, the stakes have never been higher. The future of the international order, and indeed the very principles of peace and stability that have governed the world for decades, hang in the balance. And the outcome of this dangerous game is far from certain.